We begin the news at this hour in West Africa, where Joseph Boakai has been sworn in as Liberia's president following his election victory over George Weah. Boakai's administration now has the challenge of tackling poverty and corruption. The 79-year-old narrowly beat the former football star in November's runoff poll with 50.64% of the votes to 49.36%. He was sworn in for a 6-year term during a ceremony in Parliament in the capital, Monrovia, in the presence of several foreign leaders and diplomatic delegations. Boakai failed to reach the end of his inauguration speech as he appeared to almost pass out and had to be held up at a ceremony in the capital, Monrovia. He had already been speaking for around 30 minutes when it became clear that he was having difficulty talking. Boakai has 40 years of political experience already behind him. He was vice president from 2006 to 2018 under Liberia's first female president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, before being beaten by Weah in the 2017 election. Meanwhile, Joseph Boakai has said his vision is to transform Liberia into a prosperous and peaceful nation where all citizens can enjoy their rights and freedom and where government serves the public interest. Boakai mentioned this on Sunday at his Thanksgiving service at Efforts Baptist Church in the Painesville area of the country. Boakai says he's thankful for the honor done to him while assuring Liberians of a better life.
Leading to the swearing-in of Liberia's 25th president, Joseph Boakai, on the 22nd of January 2024, was first his Thanksgiving and intercessory service held at the Effort Baptist Church in Painesville, Liberia. The president-elect, who served as the former vice president under the first female Liberian president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, described his journey to the presidency as a long one. He, however, says he's determined to help millions of Liberians who have been left to face abject poverty and insecurity. Mr. Boakai also seized the opportunity to remind the people of his campaign promises, including fighting corruption, boosting agricultural production, bringing down the cost of food, and improving the country's roads.
If anybody is ever dissatisfied with the way our country has been going, I had that as a burden. And I want to say to all Liberians listening to your voice today, and I know that as much as we think, we still have a lot of good people in this country, people who love their country, people who would like to see a better Liberia. And I want to say to all of them today, this is a commitment all of us should make. God has given us a country that is well endowed. The people of this country must enjoy the benefit of this country.
The former president of Liberia, Ellen Sirleaf, and other eminent personalities present at the occasion were full of accolades as they noted the contributions of the former vice president, while being optimistic that he will do a better job as president and take the country to greater heights.
We want a change until we get into power. We want to do it, but give us it and it becomes an opportunity to steal. So I wanted this message to get out to our consciousness and provoke that change that is needed, that we want, but feel unable to actually provide for the next generation.
Liberia has, in my view, has gone back to, in terms of our economy, in terms of hardship, I think we retrogressed. We went back. And I'm hoping that I'm not hoping for a miracle, but I'm hoping that Liberia can get better. I'm
an electrical engineering student, and you don't see more job opportunities for we the engineers in Liberia. That's why more people go out to go and get foreign engineers to come and do the job. So in my own view, I hope that there will be a lot of opportunities for us, the young engineers coming up.
Born in November 1944 into what many have called humble beginnings, Joseph Boakai served as Liberia's agriculture minister under the then President Samuel Doe. in the 1980s. Mr. Boakai also oversaw programs to decentralize agriculture by creating regional hubs, a flagship project in Liberia where many people are subsistence farmers.
Staying in West Africa, the Federal High Court in Abuja has nullified the 800 billion naira 2024 budget signed into law by the Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara. In December, the governor had presented an 800 billion naira 2024 appropriation bill to a faction of the State House of Assembly comprising 4 lawmakers. Following the passage of the budget by the lawmakers, Fubara subsequently signed the budget into law. The Rivers Assembly became factionalized following a move by 27 lawmakers loyal to ex-governor Nyesom Wike to impeach Fubara. The presiding judge, James Omotosho, held that everything done by the 4 lawmakers was null and void. The court also recognized Martin Amaiwile as the Speaker of the State Assembly. Moving on now, Governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, has held a Thanksgiving service to celebrate the recent Supreme Court judgment that affirmed his election victory. The event, held at Rampam Township Stadium in Jos, the Plateau State capital, north-central Nigeria, was covered by Chizoba Nyome, and she files in this report.
My mouth will talk about the goodness of God. My ears are sweet, my ears are word, my mouth will talk about the goodness of God.
Governor Mutfwang, his wife Helen, their children, many other family members, former Governor Jonah Jang, members of the state cabinet, and other dignitaries from neighboring states were on the plateau to felicitate the time is now governor. The event saw well-wishers from far and wide, including renowned gospel singers, pouring praises to God for the life of the governor.
You heard my voice and you lifted my head.
Prayers as well as words of admonition were given by the clergy.
It is our prayers that as we continue this Thanksgiving, that God will accept our sacrifice of thanksgiving today as an honor unto Him.
This is the beginning of wholeness. This is wholeness, restoration. Everything that Plateau has lost shall be fully restored.
The elected governor said he will not rest on his oars in taking the state to greater heights.
By the grace of God, this is a new beginning. It's the beginning of the fulfillment of the promises we have made to you. And by the grace of God, we will not fail you. We are determined to lift Plateau to a new realm. We will continue where our great leaders have stopped. We'll ride on their shoulders and raise Plateau to a new level.
There were goodwill messages from the friends of Plateau who came to rejoice with the governor.
It is gladdening to see the return of true Plateau spirit, of oneness and love in this gathering. I pray that this be sustained.
Plateau State, let us turn to God. Let's turn to Christ. He has heard us. He has answered our prayers. It is up to us now to support Caleb Mutfwang with our prayers for this coming 8 years.
Continue to lift him up, that the Lord will give him wisdom. The Lord will empower him.
All eyes will now be on Governor Mutfwang and his cabinet to see how he plans to move the state forward as the legal tussles are over. In Jos for News Central, I am Chizoba Anyonwe.
To security matters now, the kidnapped daughters of the Al-Kadriyars abducted on Tuesday, January the 2nd, 2024 at the Boakai Area Council of Nigeria's capital, Abuja, have finally been reunited with their family. Inside sources say a 70 million naira ransom was paid to effect their release, though the Nigeria Police Force is claiming this followed a joint operation between the police and the military. Marvelous Obomanu visited the family and tells us more.
For several months.
What is the taste of freedom? And how does it feel to be confined in an unknown place for 18 days? This is the story of Al-Kadriyar and his 5 daughters that were kidnapped from their home in the Boakai Area Council, a suburb of Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, on January the 2nd, following the inability to raise a 60 million naira ransom as demanded by the kidnappers. One of the 5 girls, Nabiha Al-Kadriyar, was murdered in cold blood, which sparked a national uproar. With the ransom finally paid, the other 4 girls, alongside 7 other captives from 4 different families, were finally reunited with their loved ones.
Immediately, my friend discovered that there is a robbery attack. That's what he presumed it was. He put a distress call to his junior brother, Abdul Fattah, and that one immediately swung into action. He contacted the police, mobilized the police. He went to the scene of but unfortunately, they were ambushed. He was gunned down.
This is the exact junction where police operatives and the kidnappers had a gun duel. Unfortunately, a younger brother to the victim, Abdul Fattah, lost his life. And then, of course, the 3 mobile police officers who came with him for the rescue operation were badly injured. And then 2 days after, one of the police officers lost his life. Now, if you look closely, we can still see some broken glasses on the ground. News Central visited the residence of the Al-Kadriyars as part of its efforts to follow up on the case. Now we're here at this compound, and what we noticed so far when we came here is that we can still see some broken, glasses on the floor. And of course, when you look at this particular building, right through into the wall was where a bullet penetrated inside. And of course, we also seen that the place where these kidnappers made their way into the compound is obviously showing at that gate side where you see those barbed wires folded down.
This is the state capital, and all this is happening at the nose of the federal government.
It is one too many cases of kidnapping in the Boakai Area Council and across the federal capital, Nigeria's seat of power, which many say ought to be the safest place in the country. They say the location of the kidnappers are known to residents and security agencies, but wonder why they are not being flushed out.
These guys it's a stone throw here. From here, you can't drive 15 minutes. That's their enclaves. They are there, as if they have found their own colony there.
I will just kindly solicit the approval of federal government for the bandits to grant them CAC approval so that we will know that they are established institution for business.
Although the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory has warned against paying ransom to kidnappers. However, this becomes a tall order if you face a similar situation like the Al-Kadriyars. Citizens say government should instead live up to its responsibility and ensure the protection of lives and property. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomanu.
And from north central to the east, the people of the Kwesi community in Umenyochi local government area of Abia State can now move about freely in their community following the fleeing of kidnappers from their domain. The Kwesi community was identified to be where kidnappers who operated in the Umenyochi axis held their victims hostage until ransom was paid. News Central's Chinwe Ogele reports that a sting operation carried out a few months ago by the joint security team in the state in the same council area uncovered the depth of criminal activities there.
Into years, kidnapping raged in Umunochi and Isukwata local government areas of Abia State, creating untold fears in villagers and commuters alike. The criminals had found comfort in a dilapidated school in Lekwese community where it drove away school children and teachers.
And this particular place used to be comprehensive secondary school, Umucheze. But as you can see, it's already in ruins. And the students here, we are moved back to another secondary school, another primary school there over there. From there, the bandits still went there and then chased them back to the community. So as it starts on these two schools, no one is there.
The kidnappers stay here and they keep victims around here. They made sure that they vandalized the secondary school so that nobody will be there. And they took over this other one too. As you saw on the board, the last time people thought here was on the 26th of June, 2023. And since then, nothing has happened here except kidnapping and kidnapping business.
The best thing we will do is we'll have to do the roads and then we reactivate the schools so that they will have to leave this general environment.
For fear of their own lives, the villagers who saw it all kept mum for as long as it lasted.
We are besieged with what we can, that we are overwhelmed by what we can handle. But until this time,
we have been living in fear because these people, they pass through the community, they come here and they kidnap everywhere, so no one is safe.
It happens that we escaped the incident where they planned it. God just be on our side.
The Commissioner of Police in the state, Kenechukwu Onwemele, in the company of the Special Advisor to Governor Alex Oti on Security, MacDonald Oba, paid a visit to Lekwese community.
You can see there's collaboration among the security forces, the military, the police, and all other security agencies are working hand in glove with the support of this government. We assure the people of Abia State that we would put in our best, we'll put in our level best to be sure that the vision of the governor for a safe and secure Abia State that is already within reach is accomplished.
The government is doing their bit and the men are doing their bit. In fact, we are activating 4 more sectors.
The steady chase and scout of the criminals around these vicinities by combined team of the security agencies seemed to be achieving its purpose as cases of abductions drop appreciably. In Omahia News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
In Nigeria's southwest, Lagos State government says it will immediately start implementing a ban on styrofoam and other single-use plastics. Lagos's Environment Commissioner, Tokunbo Wahab, said non-biodegradable plastics were a major pollution problem and were clogging drains. State officials say they will use a dormant 2009 law to fine or jail culprits. Lagos is one of Africa's most popular cities. International experts estimate Nigeria generates 2.5 million tons of plastic waste annually. Let's now tell you that India is one of the few countries that is challenging the existing international order and reshaping the world amid the exclusive power by the West at a recent lecture organized by the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs titled Resetting the Global Agenda, the Role of India and the Global South. India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Subramanyam Jaishankar, had a lot to say. Betty Nang really was there and completes the reports.
Global agenda, the role of India and the Global South. India's Minister of External Affairs, Dr. Subramanyam Jaishankar, says the global agenda in many ways today is about restoring the world to its original state.
And it concerns them because whether we speak about our domestic policies at home or whether today we debate international relations abroad, the simple principle that must guide global governance, global conversations, global debates is a conviction that no one should be left behind. And when we speak about no one being left behind, I think the welfare of Africa is particularly important.
Jaishankar highlights 3 global challenges that had to be overcome in order to get along with the global agenda.
And these examples actually point us in a certain direction. They point us in the direction, obviously, of progress, where every society, in a manner in which it is itself comfortable, is able to advance, where prosperity is not the privilege of a few, where growth is robust, is sustainable, is green, where there is security, where there is stability, and where, as I said, the basic needs of food, of health, of energy are met, where climate action advances along with climate justice.
The Director General of NIIA, Professor Egosa Osage, says India is a great partner with Nigeria, adding that both nations have had larger global frameworks and networks, beginning with the non-aligned movement.
The whole point is that India is a global power. Nigeria is also a global power. Nigeria is Africa's biggest economy. Nigeria is Africa's biggest democracy. And therefore, a coming together of Nigeria and India, which has historically been very productive, is what we need to rekindle.
I think that India can share with other developing countries, not just in trade, but in how attitudes change that make for greater development.
India has been in the forefront of solidarity with Nigeria, considering that the country opened diplomatic ties with Nigeria 2 years before her independence. It remains to be seen what other positives will come out of these relations. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Unwili.
You're watching News Now. Coming up, Cameroon starts world first malaria mass vaccine rollout. Details of this and other stories will come your way shortly. Don't go away. It's okay.
Okay.
News Central now continues in Central Africa, where President Felix Tshikedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo was sworn in on Saturday after a controversial December election, has promised to unite the country during his second 5-year term and to preserve lives in the conflict-hit eastern region. According to the Election Commission, Tshikedi was re-elected with more than 70% of the votes. However, opposition candidates and supporters questioned the election's legitimacy, citing logistical issues. The country experienced a spike in violence in the latter months of 2023 as the country anticipates national elections in December. At this point, to discuss this further, I'm being joined by an international relations analyst, that is Dr. Alexander Rusero. Dr. Rusero, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Let's start with how the elections in DRC were conducted and the regional legitimacy. Well, we saw South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the inauguration and other regional leaders. Is there more to the attendance of these regional leaders?
Yes, I think by and large, the election went smooth. It was successful, given that DRC conducted this election at the backdrop of the simmering conflict that is taking place in the eastern region unabated. So for a country that is actually reeling under armed conflict, managing to successfully conduct an election, that's a plus in terms of the potential that the state has, all things being equal. But of course, there have been some loopholes in the conduct of that election, precisely with regards to three regions, that is North Kivu, South Kivu, and another province called Ituri, where things did not go well because of violence, because of internal displacement, that then disenfranchised certain people who would have exercised their democratic right to vote. But by and large, the elections, they went well, save for these skirmishes that took place, as well as a delay of about 98% of the polling stations delayed starting the election in time due to logistical constraints and challenges.
Despite all these challenges, in his address, Tshikedi spoke about uniting the people of DR Congo following the war that has been going on in that particular country for over a decade now. Do you see that as a possibility? And for him to be able to unite the people, what are the key priorities he should be considering?
Yeah, I think it's very possible to rally the issue of unity, because remember, this is a second term. And for most of the time, presidents in their second term, they will also be considering with high priority issues to do with legacy. The second term for any given president, it's a legacy term. He would want to be remembered for having taken DRC to another level in as much as unity is concerned. But there are a lot of problematic issues to galvanize that kind of unity. And for most of the time, these are tied to colonial interests, erstwhile colonial masters who have vested interest in the DRC, and we have invested a lot to make sure the DRC people will never know peace in their lifetime. So the onus and discretion is upon the region, East African community, as well also as the Southern African Development Community, to see measures that can be put in place to nip in the bud the simmering conflict that is preventing DRC's entire unification. Issues of proliferation of small arms and guns that have wreaked havoc, especially in the eastern region, where the level and gravity of violence surpasses even the violence and the genocide that is taking place in Palestine right now. So I think there is a lot of stake, but the sincerity is upon the erstwhile colonial masters, because there is a lot of invisible colonial heads that would want to make sure that DRC will never know peace and will never have unity for the umpteenth time.
Well, still talking about the issue of external violence or conflict as it is, let's quickly look at the relationship between DRC and other countries in the East, like Rwanda. How do you think the president should handle these relationships with other East African countries to bring about peace within the region?
I think diplomacy must be given a chance. Diplomacy is the ultimate panacea, especially with regards to the DRC-Rwanda relations, where the two leading protagonists in form of Felix Tshikedi and Paul Kagame, they are not very much of good friends because of several salvo and utterances, accusations and counter-accusations that these two states often make against each other. I think Rwanda also should come out clean, because there is a lot of proliferation of the Rwandese. There is also a lot of proliferation of armed forces that encroach DRC using the route of Rwanda. And so Rwanda should join forces with the DRC to ensure that the conflicts are nipped in the bud, because also there is always, for most of the time, an invisible and at times a clear Rwandese hand in the DRC conflicts. But I'm very optimistic that if diplomacy is given a chance And if the two presidents actually sit down together and avoid the previous accusations and counter accusations we have witnessed, something can give in. So there is a lot to do to mend the relations between DRC and Rwanda for the common good, not only of these two states, but the entire East African region.
Dr. Alexander Rusero, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Sure, thank you for having me.
In Central Africa, Cameroon has launched the first malaria vaccination program to be offered nationwide and as a matter of routine. According to the World Health Organization, the mosquito-borne disease kills more than 600,000 people a year, mainly in Africa. Children under 5 years account for more than 80% of deaths on the continent. Following a pilot phase, the RTS-S vaccine is being rolled out at scale across Africa, starting in Cameroon. The jab will be offered free of charge, according to the government, and systematically to all children under 6 months old at the same time as other obligatory or recommended vaccinations.
Un vaccin contre le paludisme. Il y a un demi-million d'enfants qui meurent par an en Afrique à cause du paludisme. Et ça y est, on est finalement au moment où ce vaccin va pouvoir être mis en place dans les pays africains. Pour moi, c'est vraiment un tournant. Ça fait très longtemps qu'on travaille sur le vaccin contre le paludisme. Ça a mis 30 ans. C'est une maladie qui est très difficile parce qu'elle est transmise par un parasite avec un cycle de vie qui est très compliqué. Et donc, de voir que vraiment on a un outil qui va pouvoir nous être utile, qui a une efficacité qui est démontrée, qui a une sûreté. On a vraiment étudié pour être sûr qu'il n'y avait pas d'effets secondaires qui poseraient des problèmes. Donc, ce sont les moins de 5 ans qui sont les plus touchés par le paludisme. Et on va vacciner donc les enfants à partir de l'âge de 5 mois environ. Il y a 4 doses à donner et donc on les donne, on les répartit sur la première et la deuxième année de vie et ça nous aide à les protéger alors qu'ils sont jeunes et qu'ils sont les plus susceptibles à la maladie.
In East Africa, floods have damaged houses and roads and killed several people after heavy rains pounded Tanzania's commercial city Dar es Salaam for 2 days. Many houses near rivers were seen collapsed and roads and bridges destroyed, making it difficult to navigate through the city. The main Bagamoyo road that joins the city to the northern regions was inaccessible on Sunday after downpour flooded the area. Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan on Sunday asked citizens to take precautions by avoiding affected areas. She also called on the rescue authorities to make sure that the rains do not cause deaths. The Tanzania Meteorological Agency has warned of heavy rains for the rest of the month. Elsewhere, 5 men have been murdered in Rabi Ridge, Midrand in South Africa, accused of various offences. It is believed that the men were stoned to death in a mob justice episode when residents in that area went door to door looking for the suspected offenders. Meanwhile, police say no stolen property or weapons were found on the alleged criminals. 4 of the 5 bodies have been identified by their families. Mob justice is not unique to South Africa, as several communities in Africa resort to taking laws into their hands when they feel offended as a way of collective punishment. In our 2023 statistics study released by the ECOFIN agency No B4, a security awareness platform states that among 800 people over the age of 18 in 8 African countries like Morocco, South Africa, Kenya, Botswana, Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, and Mauritius, nearly 40% of those polled had fallen victim to an online scam at least once, regardless of the type. The report also states that to succeed in their crimes and get victims' attention, fraudsters most of the time use emotional approaches through various means. According to the survey, in 24% of cases, they prefer using emails to get in contact with their victims. Meanwhile, Police in South Africa have reported that several people have been swindled of their money in online scams in Limpopo in recent months. Police say scammers use social media platforms to entice unsuspecting people. Some involve publishing bogus job and business opportunities. To discuss this, I am being joined by CEO of the Southern African Fraud Prevention Service, Mani van Schalkwyk. Hello, are you there? Hello, Mani.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Good afternoon. And thank you for inviting me to your show.
It's a pleasure having you around. How would you describe the current landscape of course, if you can hear me, I'd like to find out, how would you describe the current landscape of online scams in Africa?
Well, we're seeing a significant increase specifically on the southern tip of Africa, where and we experienced it since about the end of November with Black Friday, right up to now. The scams have increased, and maybe I can give you just a couple of examples of the trends that we're seeing.
Well, I'd like to find out, what are some of the common tricks being used by scammers to defraud people or victims? I'd like to find out.
Okay, brilliant. Definitely our top scammer is where the scammers are pretending to phone from a bank, and they ask a consumer that they see fraud on their account and that they want to transfer their money into a safe account, and then ask from a consumer to accept and provide them with a one-time PIN. The moment the consumer does that, all the money disappears out of their bank account. Also in line with similar trend is where the fraudster is asking the consumer for a reversal of a fraudulent debit order that went off their account. Very similar, ask the consumer to approve a PIN, and then the moment the consumer approves or provides the one-time PIN, then the money disappears out of the consumer's bank account. Those are the most significant ones. We've got several more, including investment scams, romance scams, fake goods, fake websites, definitely things like people want to request for update of their bank account details, and or account verification, WhatsApps or SMS.
So who are the specific vulnerable population or demographics that scammers tend to target more frequently in Africa?
Yeah, I do think the most vulnerable part of society, if people are not very tech savvy, they don't use digital banking, for instance, or they don't use technology to an extent that they don't familiarize themselves, and they really become vulnerable because the scammers will target them.
So then, how can people actually identify and protect themselves against these involving tactics and protect themselves from being scammed?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that consumers should never provide any information, whether it's a PIN, whether it's their identity, whether it's account numbers on the phone with anybody. The banks don't communicate with the clients that way, so don't provide that information. If you are phoned by the bank or so-called bank to provide information, just put down the phone and phone your bank, specifically on the number that you have, and try to verify what is going on, and you will quickly find out that the scammer was behind that call.
Mani van Schalkwyk, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. We'll now go on a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Don't go away. severe disruption. To talk more to us about this is an international correspondent, Afia Hagen. For this particular discussion, she'll be shedding more light on it. Afia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
The UK experiences storms like this throughout the winter. What makes this one different?
Well, you're absolutely right in saying that. This is actually the 10th named storm that we have had this season. And a named storm is a storm that's severe enough that people name it so it can be tracked by the Met Office and by social media and across the media as well. So this is the 10th named storm that we have had. And this is the tail end of a severe ice storm that has been affected in the United States. It's been so bad, there's been about 90 deaths there with sub-zero temperatures, a severe ice storm. Now that storm should be over, but what has happened is we have had the tail end of it that has developed over the Atlantic, and that's why we have the severe storm conditions that we have. So you have up to 300,000 homes and businesses up and down the country at the moment without power. Yesterday and overnight and into this morning was terrible conditions for pilots trying to land planes. You had planes that were supposed to land in London, landing in Bristol or Paris, diverted to Glasgow or Edinburgh. So people ending up hundreds of miles from where they should have been. Trains cancelled up and down the country as well. Services to airports hugely disrupted, and a man was killed by a falling tree in Northern Ireland, an 82-year-old man. He was pronounced dead earlier on today.
So what role does climate change have to play in the severity of the storm?
Well, this is the thing, is that as the Earth warms up, so as the Earth warms up, say 1 degree, then you have more water that will be in the atmosphere, and that can have 7% more heavy rainfall. And it's worth noting that we actually have another named storm coming tomorrow morning. That is Storm Jocelyn, and that is due to bring heavy rain, which could lead to flooding. So we've already been battered by Storm Aisha, and the trees have fallen. So now we're going to have lots of rain. So if you have climate change, if you have the Earth warming by 1 degree, which means 7% more rain held in the clouds, you're more likely to have heavy rainfall and floods and storms like this. So climate change is playing a role in these more severe storm seasons that we're having here in the United Kingdom.
And Afia, we know that there have been discussions at the global level, for funds to be made available to tackle climate change issues and for countries to reduce carbon emission. Will situations like this eventually force the hands of countries, the global powers, developing countries, low-income countries, to now begin to see how to pull resources together to deal with climate change issues?
The thing is, the longer we leave it to deal with climate change issues, the worse that things will get. So for instance, if you have more flooding in your country, then you have people who are less prepared for it. So if you have people who are less prepared for it, you don't have enough flood defenses. When floods happen, you're going to have more destruction. Therefore, you have to lay out money to repair roads and towns that have been damaged by the flooding. But actually, what would make sense is for people to put more money into preventing the world by warming by 1 degree or 1.5 degrees, and also having things like flood prevention and having flood defenses. So actually, it just makes good economic sense for people to invest more in making sure the Earth doesn't warm by 1.5 degrees, making sure that we can meet the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, making sure that we can stay at net zero. And as time goes on and we continue not to do that, we will have more floods, we will have more heat domes, we will have more droughts. So we really need to get ahead of the curve, and we really need to start working towards net zero to prevent these kind of things from happening. Spending the money on preventative measures is always going to be so much less than spending money after the fact.
Afia Hagen, thank you so much for your insights on this.
Thank you.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. Federal High Court in Abuja has nullified the 2024 budget signed into law by Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Joseph Boakai has been sworn in as new Liberia president. And finally, we told you that Cameroon has started world's first malaria mass vaccine rollout. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. And you can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.